So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Global Math Department. My name is Lee Natero, and I will be your host tonight. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from David Henson about demystifying math with numberless word problems. Would everyone please introduce themselves in the chat, telling us what you teach, where you teach, and what your Twitter handle is, if you have one. Give everybody a moment to do that. So I'm glad to see so many people here tonight. So many familiar names. Unfortunately, not familiar faces, but maybe someday we can all be together in person. Who knows? Before I introduce our speaker, let me explain how these meetings work. These meetings are recorded and are available within 24 hours after the meeting ends. To view the recording, you would use the same link you used to get here tonight. The Global Math Department community prides itself on being friendly and supportive. The chat room is available for topical and general conversation throughout the meeting. I'll catch your questions for the presenter, so don't worry that the presenter won't notice your questions in the chatter. Tonight, our speaker is David Henson. David is a grades 6 through 12 instructional content coach. He has coached high school math and middle school math like a contact sport. By emphasizing activities in math, he has leveraged students' natural curiosity into engaging ideas. From falling teddy bears to Minecraft zombie apocalypses, he has built inquiry-based activities designed to keep rigor high through engagement. He has been in education for 27 years, 20 in the classroom and 7 as an instructional coach. He has a Master of Education in K-12 Mathematics Curriculum Instruction from University of Texas at Arlington. He currently works as an educational consultant for Education Service Center Region 11 in Texas. He lives in Arlington, Texas with his wife and children. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to David.
Welcome, everyone, wherever you may be from. I won't lie that I didn't realize that global really meant globe. Welcome. I'm hoping today that my basic goal is that you can find one good thing that you can use to help kiddos. So everything we have is definitely available to you. So by all means, let's go. In the chat on the sticky is a link. The bit.ly is to the presentation folder. It's to this presentation as a Google slide, and then also a Google document that's a list of links that you can access all the activities that we do, any other site sources that we cite that you can have access to. It's just an easy one-pager. Actually, it's 2, but it'll help you just find stuff later, and you're more than welcome to it. There's a good chance that I probably borrowed it from somebody else, and in true education form, I'm going to loan it to you. Today we are going through numberless word problems. This is a part of our Demystifying word problem series, and we kind of latched onto it, and we've had a lot of fun sharing it with our districts in Region 11, and we hope that you enjoy it as well. As she mentioned, this is me. I work in White Settlement, Texas, which is a suburb just outside of Fort Worth. My email is there. My Twitter handle is @MinecraftMath, and the website that you can find most of this stuff is at our Region 11 site, esc11.net math. Again, you're welcome to log on, find it. I will say this: if you are outside of Texas, remember that our stuff is linked to Texas standards, which is basically math of a different, with different names. So something that may be registered as a 7th grade standard where you're at, maybe a 6th or an 8th grade, just depends on the change. But math is math is math. Today we're going to talk about where are the numbers at. we're going to talk about what numberless word problems are. And then my last thing, say asynchronous one more time. We have all pivoted into this wonderful year that we just are finishing up now. And we learned a lot. And we're going to have to we're probably going to have to keep coming back to those skills over the next year or so. Hopefully, knock on wood, we won't need them, but it's nice to have them when we're ready. So let's go ahead and move forward. I have a question for you in the chat. I want you to answer this question. Look at this question that we had on our state assessment for 8th graders, and I want you to think, what could a student go wrong with on this question? So just go ahead and type in your what you think would be a struggle for a student in your class. Mm-hmm. Number of gallons for one load instead of 10. What does varies directly mean? That is a crazy thing for, you think, an 8th grader, because they speak varies directly all the time. What's a dishwasher? Vary in different cultures, that in different areas that means different things. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with the word problem. Some of them are scenario based, like the dishwasher statement. Some of them are numbers based, where they see numbers, but they don't really understand all the operators. So I don't know about you, but in Texas, we have some kiddos that, when they see a word problem, they'll just shut down on us. So what I would like for you to do is I want to go back to Desmos, and I'm going to see how you guys process this exact question, but I did it in a few different steps. Let's see if you can pick up on what I did to you. So I'm going to share my screen and go to the Desmos activity that we were looking at. All right, and this is to the moderator. Can you see my, wait a second.
Not yet.
Okay. It's my Mac. Okay, later. All right, it's not going to let me share, unfortunately.
I can do the screen sharing. That's not really going to work.
The problem is it's the teacher portal.
Yeah, I know that.
Try this one more time. Share.
Other thing is, there is the
there you go. Can you see it now?
I can see you, but not. It says
loading. You're sharing the screen. How's that?
Screen sharing has been disabled. To open. Oh wait. Okay. It looks like it's working now. There it is. Okay.
Okay. So if you've not seen Desmos Activity Builder before, this is the actual teacher portal. I'm running the activity that you guys did as students. And I'm going to go ahead and anonymize everybody, because not everybody wants to see their names on there, and that's okay with me. I'm more interested in what you said. So let's look at the very first thing. I asked a basic question right off the bat, was, where are you at? How are you today? If we look at the overlaid responses of everybody, we see that if I ask the question of how you feel, the original responses on the y-axis are necessary and unnecessary for number feeling today. And the x-axis are numberless word problems are easy to teach, or oh my God, no. So looking at the overlaid responses of everybody, it's kind of a full spread. They are necessary, but we have easy to teach all the way down to oh my God, no, let me run away. So that is the basis of where we're at as a group. And if we look at the next one asks how do kids feel about the word problems. I'm going to go ahead. The thing on this one is, as you move the point left to right, the robot's eyes and mouth change. So if I look at the overlay on this one, I see it's a little bit harder to see. The points aren't exactly too dark, but there is nobody over on the happy side. It's all predominantly on the left side over here where we're seeing it. So kids don't really like word problems. We know they're necessary, but so we're going to have to help them overcome it. So I'm going to do an exercise that we did on the Desmos activity, and I want you to start telling me what's going on. So right off the bat, I said, read the scenario. What's going on? Do we have all the information? And what do you still need to know? So if you haven't had a chance to respond on the Desmos activity and you want to put your response in the chat, go right ahead.
David, can you share the link to the Desmos activity in the chat, possibly?
Yes. Actually, I'll pick another sticky with it. Give me a half second. So, a minute. Copy. And go back to a sticky. Paste. Save. Got it. Okay. So looking at what some of the people have managed to put in already, we have how many gallons are used for one load is we still need to know. Thinking there's no question there. It's redacted. Interesting note, I didn't know redacted was really a word until all of that political stuff. So now I have a new word to use whenever I do this. It's called redacted. Well, it depends on the question of what. We need to know what the question is. So in this one, it's pretty obvious what I did to you. I eliminated numbers, and I eliminated the question. So moving to the next one, I asked, now I've added a little more information. I give you the question. What info do you still need? It's not active on the sticky. Yeah, it's not a hypertext. You're going to have to copy it and paste it in. I'm sorry. So I think if you just copy and paste it, copy the text and paste it into a URL, it should work. Okay, so this question is, so now we have a little bit more question. We need to find out the water. 1 second. 1 second. I have dogs barking. For those of you around the world, yes, we still have dogs barking when we're trying to present here too. Sorry. So there's lots of different things that you can look at here. But the basic thing is now we know in the question. And if we go to the third one, now you have all the information, and now you can solve the problem. This is essentially what a numberless word problem is. We dial down the mathematics and let the kids approach it strategically, systematically, holding off that I don't like math feeling for one more slide. So I want to look at what some of our responses are. Have you guys had a chance to look at the snapshot features? This one is pretty cool. So I'm going to look at some snapshots here. I'm going to take a picture of this one, and I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one too. This one looks amazing. So, all right. And now I'm just going to look at the snapshots, and we're going to look at the different ways they were solved. All right. So, looking at what we have here on the 3 different ways they were solved, I want to take a poll real quick. We're going to say the top left one is 1, the top right one is 2, and the bottom one is 3. Pick the one that you think closely aligned to the way you would solve this would have solved that problem. Yeah, Bonnie, I'll be honest with you. In a smaller setting, I always try to find the most disparate examples I possibly can, because that way I can get the kids to realize there's more than one way to solve the problem, which is always a bonus. So everybody has you're a table girl. Good job. Good job, Heidi. Good job. I like tables. I got through calculus on a T-chart. So there are different ways to solve it, but I want you to think back if you were that kiddo who isn't successful at math, is firmly convinced math is out to get them, and probably could fairly say they're a math trauma patient. Math has beaten them up. They don't like math. They have people in their lives that tell them that it's okay not to be good at math. When I see this problem, it's not a math problem yet. So I can hold them into this conversation for just 5 more minutes until I can get to the next one. So, and then I start asking things like, what's your opinion? What do you think is happening here? What's a question you think you can answer? Joe Bowler has a great series on youtube.org when she talks about low floor, high ceiling problems, where you lower the floor and you raise the ceiling so kids can come in at different angles wherever they're at to be more engaged. Truth be told, I worked with the extremes. And when I was in the classroom, I worked with the lowest of the low and the highest of the high. So I'd go straight from honors kids, and I go to the kids that probably would rely on them later on in life. So as far as legal assistance, I mean, they had ankle monitors. But the only real difference between the two wasn't that they weren't able. It was that they didn't think they were able to do math. So when I was able to turn off that disbelief, turn off that suspicion that they couldn't do math, I could get some great things out of them. So, yes, math trauma patient. It's kind of a thing, but you think about it, it's rude. When you have a trauma patient, the most important thing you can do is stabilize them. And stabilizing in a math student is, I have to get them to believe that math isn't out to get them. So activities like this are my favorite. So, all right, I'm going to go back to the presentation. Thank you very much for doing the here. Stop share. Go to slides, or does it automatically go to slides?
You have to click on slides, but it'll pick up where you left off.
Okay, open. All right, there we go. Thank you. So This was the actual test that we had in 2018. This is the actual percentages of the students and how they performed through the state. So 29% of the students, this is what probably would be classified as a proportion problem. 25% of the students, 29%, didn't get this answer correct. Now, this was a completion question, and when you have a predominantly multiple choice test and then they throw in some completion questions, the scores, the standards scores are generally lower, but not this much. So that's 29 points for pretty close to a straight-on proportion question. So what do you think about that activity? My goal was to get it down so that everybody would engage. How do you feel? Was it successful in getting you to engage? If it is, type a yes. If you're still a little skeptical and you want to see some more, go ahead and say a maybe. So go ahead and put that in the chat right now, please. Gotcha, John. All right. So now time for the sales pitch. All right, here we go. This is the elevator speech. This was the plan that I used when I was building this. I use generally a 3-step plan. This, as we're going to see, there are multiple interpretations of numberless word problems. It's not essentially the word problems that's the thing. It's the discussion and asking of questions and getting people to share information that kind of really drives home the discourse. But this is my basic plan. One, I blocked all the numbers and blocked the question stem. I wanted you just to get the scenario. 2, I revealed the question stem, but I wouldn't show you the numbers. So you could see what they were asking, but you didn't have enough information left. And step 3, I removed all the redactions and then had the students list the important information and describe a plan. So and then the last step is solve the problem. This is not necessarily something I would do for everything. I'm going to put this little caveat right now. Don't do this for every problem. You don't have enough time. And unless your class is 7,000 minutes long, then you're probably going to run out of time at some point. But this is a great way to get kids engaged, especially if it's kids that tend to be more disenfranchised. Because they don't have to be, if they do struggle in math, they're really not struggling in math until deep into the problem. And think about it that way. If I can get somebody deep into a problem, inertia alone will at least get them to try. And once they try, I can find misconceptions, I can find strengths, I can find weaknesses, I can fix the problem. It's when they don't try, I struggle as an educator. So that was my basic plan. Here's what the plan is. In the NCTM standards, we do have several principles to action, and my former boss used to make me. I'm trying to read under my face here. I apologize. The effective mathematics teaching practices. We had to memorize all of them because she wanted us to incorporate them into all of our sessions and in working with coaching and all that. Love her to death. One of these days, I never knew the words. It was EMTP, but I knew things like pose purposeful questions and support to productive struggle. Those were things that were our goals. That is something that I tried to incorporate here. But the main one that I really wanted to do is I wanted to facilitate a math discussion. Get kids to talk, get kids to make an opinion, get kids to prove the opinion's right, or better yet, prove that they need to change their opinion, and to do it in a safe environment for them. The second thing that we wanted to focus on here is give a task worth solving. So many times we give them like an easy task, and it's not, there's no reason to go deep and to ask probing questions. So that was kind of the goal here of picking this one. And that's what I usually try to do for all of this. Numberless word problems was kind of the pioneer is Brian Bushart. He has a great series, and I'm not the guy to read slides to people. I think that's just, yeah. I've had those presentations before, and I'm not going to do that to you. I'll let you read it yourself. But Brian Bushart kind of pioneered it. He started collecting them and kind of pulling everybody together. We've had the privilege to have Brian speak on our podcast, Complementary Angles podcast at Region 11, and he's a great, insightful person. He has a blog post. If you want to go to see a variety of things that he's done. He's got some more resources plus fraction resources and math chats. And it's I won't lie, mine is primarily focused 6 through 12. He is more K through 12. He's got a variety of things. So if you're an elementary teacher and this looks interesting, please take a look at this blog site. He has dozens of problems on there that I think you'll find good. Plus, other people can contribute as well. The numberless word problem design is this. And I do it differently than he does because I have an end goal that we'll talk about in a minute. To block or replace all the numbers with vague pronouns. That's usually step one for me. And the reason is I want them to, and then block the question stem. I want them on only the situation. Early on, we talked about that. What's a dishwasher? Was somebody made a great observation. Some kids may not know what a dishwasher is. That's important, and that can come out in the discussion. That alters the way you solve an entire problem by having that conversation. The second step, reveal the question stem, but I'm going to either leave the numbers redacted, or if they were pronouns, switch them to just redacted numbers. So I want them to know the numbers there, but sorry, squirrel. I know that the numbers are there, but you can't see them yet. And the reason is I want them to focus now on what the problem's asking. I want them to understand that what's the question really trying to get at before they digged into the numbers. Next one, I'm going to remove all the redactions, and now you can focus on key information and determining a plan. And then this last one, if you want, I would take the original problem, make it as the fourth slide, and let them go even deeper. What else could they answer? What else could we do? And basically get the kids to solve it and then justify their answer. Tell me why this still works. Some other things people put in is guessing. What do you think works? So there's lots of different ways, and Brian goes into several different ways. I'm going to admit that I'm kind of narrow in the way I do mine because I have an end goal in mind. All right. Asynchronous time. I don't know if asynchronous is a bad a word in wherever you're at as it is in my area, but I'm pretty sure I was going to get beat up in the parking lot twice for doing an asynchronous session. Thank goodness it was virtual. So I think we're tired of it. We're definitely tired of all the Zooms and all the, staring at black screens and things like that. But I'm going to have to do it for today. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you a bunch of free things that we built at Region 11 to support this. They're free. They're by no means comprehensive. They're just a sample of exemplars that go over different grades. And if you're from Texas, they are aligned to our standards. If you are from outside of Texas, say in the United States, and you're a Common Core state, they are similar-ish, but like I said before, if you're what might be in 7th grade in Texas may fall in 6th or 8th grade, depending on your state standards. This is a list, and all of these are on that list of links page that you can get to from the folder. We had to plan and support our teachers for hybrid situations. So we had to give them a synchronous version of stuff and then an asynchronous. And the way I did it is I built everything synchronously on Google Slides and then migrated it over to Desmos Activity Builder and essentially ask the same questions I would have if they were face-to-face or synchronous, and I asked it asynchronously. There's not a lot of variation there. The questions are the same. The redactions are the same. But all of these are basically for you to just sample, just to give kind of like, this is what it really is. We tried to give SAT prep, which I was very pleased to find some really good free questions that we could use. So you are more than welcome to take this. Use this in a class, and if anybody asks you where you got it, just tell them the guy looks like Brad Pitt, and we're all good. I can't hear you laughing, but I know you're laughing. That's okay. That's my one joke of the day. As far as using this and crediting, you are welcome to use any of this. And this one is serious, but actually a joke. We work in a profession that is entirely dependent on the theft of intellectual property. We see something we like in one classroom, we take it to our classroom, change the font, and use it ourselves. It's an entire industry that we've done. I would hope that you could find something that you would use. A lot of this stuff tends to be formulaic, but that's by design because I want it easily reproducible. All right. So again, these links are on that bit.ly that you see on the screen, also on the chat box. The sticker is not there anymore. I'm going to put it back up there for the folder. So it's up there as well. You can copy the bit.ly link and then put it in your URL search bar, and you have that list of links page as well as the presentation. And on the presentation itself, all of these links are searchable, so you can click on them and it'll take you right there. The Desmos activities, I think if you saw on Desmos today, I put on the Desmos educators Facebook page, I put these out there. So they've been out there. You're welcome to them. Ask questions on them, copy them, paste them, do what you like. It's there for a reason. So I'm going to go past teacher.desmos.com because I think we got it. And now we did the teacher portion. All right, so I'm going to ask the first round of questions. So what do you think about numberless word problems? If you want to, in your chat, go ahead and just ask some, if you have a question or a clarification, or quite frankly, this is crazy and my kids would never get it, share it out. I'm good. Oh, John, that's a great question. How long it takes. If you do it right with turn and talks and in the discussion cycle, it should take about 10 minutes. Now, let's see. I think they're definitely a great entry point for my, yes. And to be honest, Bonnie, all learners are good learners. It's the reluctance that can hold them back. So any opportunity I can to get more kids involved, I would. Oh, okay. Brian brought up a very good point, and I'm glad you did, Brian. Brian, if you look at Brian Bushart's numberless word problems, there's a lot more slides than what I use. I only use 3, and then the 4th one is the full problem, and there's a reason. I see numberless word problems as the beginning to teaching my kids 3 reads. 3 reads is, for those of you who haven't, where I believe it's Resources for Reasoning, I think is the book that it comes from. When I sat down and had this all out, it was originally my presentation, and I took it out because I didn't think I would be going this fast. But the first read is asking the students to look at the scenario. The second read is asking them to look at the question. And the third read is asking them to look at the numbers, the values, operators, key phrases, things of that nature. Sound familiar? 3 reads is the end product. Numberless word problems, in my mind, is a teacher action. We run the show. We make the slides. We redact the numbers. Kids can't progress naturally. 3 reads is a problem-solving strategy that students can use on word problems to empower themselves to muscle through a problem that they're struggling on. I see numberless word problems in 3 reads as they work together. The numberless word problems is what I would be doing at the start of the year to try to foster them to get to 3 reads by the end. Thank you for everyone putting Routines for Reasoning, the link on there. It is a great book. 3 reads is just one of many of the routines that it has. But for me, I wanted my kids to get to that point where they could look at an entire word problem that they're not really getting and have that power and that empowerment to be able to solve it. So for me, I structure my numberless word problems in a way that I'm moving them to get to 3 reads on their own. Does that make sense? So for me, numberless word problems is what I would be doing at the beginning and structure it that way. And then I would work along the go. And then whenever I see, as my kids move to 3 reads, if I see that they particularly struggle, I have a natural built-in strategy to remediate them down on how to do this. So if they're struggling, if you give them the whole word problem and they can't just only look at the scenario, then I'll give them slide 2 from a numberless word problem where I give them the scenario and give them the question stem and see if they can give me that. I would just basically step and dial it down. For me, introducing harder concepts with numberless word problems is great. But when they get to that big test and they're in there by themselves, a numberless word problem is great, but it's not going to help them themselves. So for me, I want to combine the two. I want to take numberless word problems and put it in with 3 reads and have that be the natural progression. So at the beginning of the year, numberless word problems. At the end of the year, they're strong. They feel comfortable. They can do it. They can do the pieces themselves. They predict what's coming next on the numberless word. They're ready to go. So there's a lot of good symmetry working there between numberless word problems and 3 reads. And for me, that's the goal. So if you look at all of my material, you could literally say this is really 3 reads. It's very set up, cut, dry that way. So, and that's why I want to make sure that if you want to see more versions of this for discussion, definitely I want you to look at Mr. Bushard's stuff. I mean, it's awesome. There's some other sources out there as this, but this one is kind of geared. I'm gearing it to 3 reads. So that's a me thing. Are there any other questions? 3 reads. Yes. If you, Manu, if you look up 3 reads if you look at the internet, you can get kind of a good synopsis of what 3 reads is. But if I tell you that Routines for Reasoning is an excellent book, and it goes in great detail. Plus, there's some videos of the routines actually being used in class, it's always a help. Questions, and let's see. I have see if I get. Do I do these number talk problems? I'm struggling on the context of that question.
I think they're thinking about number talks where students talk about how they would solve it, and if there's more than one method to solve it, visually basically talking about the problem rather than having them write things down.
Combination, yes. We definitely want to talk. We want to share. My favorite part is when we do the solution step is to show 2 different ways. So that they can see that there's a variety of ways to solve a problem. I think one of the biggest myths about mathematics in general is there's only one way to do a problem. Even the problem before, what we had up there before, and forgive me for not remembering your name. She said that she didn't like any of the choices because she likes tables, and I'm okay with that. 94019, you mentioned you taught at all different levels. Yes, I taught in one class once. I taught 18-year-old 8th graders and 12-year-old geometry students. One room. Fun times. Great. It was an awesome time. But yeah, that's I've taught. For me, I'm an old football and wrestling coach, so the schools I worked in like to put me in situations where I could exert a little bit more presence control in classroom management. So I tended to get a few more of the rougher kids, low performing, remedial kids who really didn't like math and wanted to let me know about it constantly. But to be honest with you, this is where I would gravitate to all of these types of activities, just to get them to be doing math, but never realized they were doing math until they were so deep in the problem that I've got to solve it. That was kind of the fun part. I had more fun. I won't lie. I had more fun working with remedial students, kids who had failed a state test and needed to take it again and again. And I had more fun with them than I did with the honor students because it was always fun to see them just suddenly go, I kind of like math class. And that was I geeked out on that. That's my why. Can you incorporate the idea of coming up with low, medium, high estimates for this? Based on their computation and what they say. So I'm looking at low, medium, high as basically I would have a rubric of some sort to determine their strategies on how they used it or what they said in the discussion phase. In the asynchronous phase, it would be definitely easy to see if they have it. So I could see incorporating it. I just don't know how I could say it directly right now. Let's see, any more questions? Do you have any more questions about the resources or what you can think? This is a first for me. Normally, I usually gab a lot, and I have like 80 hours worth of stuff for a 1-hour presentation. So I should probably let my boss know that she did a good job thinning the content. If you, I do have a part where we could talk about actually how to make your own, if that would be something you'd like to see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go here. So let me go back to sharing my screen. So the numberless word problems that I built, I usually use Google Slides. And I tend to go real simple on it. So when I look at the original problem, I mean, there's two ways to do it. So let's say we're looking at this problem right here. Some doctors recommend that men drink 3 liters of water every day. There are approximately 29.6 milliliters in 1 fluid ounce. Which measurement is closest to the number of fluid ounces in 3 liters? So right now you need to think, like, what are the things that would trip these kiddos up? What could we do? There's the short version of this, which is I'm going to block out the numbers like I did on this one and block out the stem. That's the 3 reads version because it's very direct. I'm going to open the question stem and then I'm going to show the numbers. That's 3 reads. That would be the end product. But let's say we want to go ahead and do something a little bit more. We want to enhance the conversation. So I would duplicate the slide, go here, crop the image to get rid of this, expand it a little bit so it's a little bit better. I retype it maybe if I have to. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at, like, what do I want to see? What do I want them to see? I don't want them to see the final question, so I'm going to go ahead and add that shape here and just block out, just redact it. And I'm going to likewise redact the numbers. And that's the simple version if I redact the numbers. What you can do is, what if you redact the measure as well? So now all they're getting is this. Then the next slide, we start giving them information back. So they know now it's liters. They know now that it's milliliters. And just to make it easy on myself, I know it's something fluid ounce. And then you can give them the question like, what's a guess? What is some appropriate numbers we can use? We can give them pieces of the numbers back, slide after slide, or we can give them all the numbers. It's kind of open-ended. It's kind of what you want. Depends on the level. I will say this about numberless word problems, and this might have to go to the level. How many of you have those kids that answer the question almost immediately after you ask it? If you want to do a hand raise or a emoji or just a yes that in the chat, you're welcome to it. So you ask the question, and before you, almost as you finish the last sentence, the kiddo has the answer and blurts it out. It's frustrating because you don't want to tell a kid no, but you want them to actually wait. That's the nice thing about numberless word problems, is that they can't answer the question yet. All they have is what you've given them to answer it. So they're going to come out with their ideas, but now is when you can go to the other kiddos, because if I give you this question, let's say we're looking at this one right here, where some doctors recommend that men drink water every day. There are approximately bloom. I can say, well, what do you think it is? And the students would now have, it's an opinion-based answer. So all those kids who are math trauma patients who kind of worry about being good at math can now participate on equal footing with our rock stars. And that's really what we need. If we're trying to do a discourse, we need to get them talking long enough until the kiddos who naturally just are good at this, and I'm not saying that everybody, that there are kids that are good and the kids that are bad. There are kids that just speak this language naturally. It's how they process and think. We have to slow them down without ruining their joy. We have kids who are convinced that math is against them. We have to give them joy without triggering their regret or their angst. So I can ask this question. My high flyers are stuck because they can't answer it. They're just going to tell me the scenario. Don't steal the struggle. Excellent. Yeah, I agree. And the kiddos that need that support, and they're still on equal footing. They're going to answer it. So For me, that's as easy as it has to be. So let's say we have a bank of word tasks. I think one of the persons in the Desmos activity said they don't like word problem, they like word tasks, and I agree. They have some word tasks, and we want to introduce them into it. We're going to use one of them. Once we get the basic plan down, we can work them on. So you can use this as another tool to get them started. Now, might there be variables for those kids to explain that through? Yes, you can switch it to variables. My experience is a redaction is as good as a variable because it's like, I can't see. And to be honest with you, the lower performing students that I've worked with on this, they prefer the redactions over variables. Yes, I agree. They scare them. You know, where our high flyers would see a variable that may as well be the redacted spot, our struggling students, they are more comfortable with, I can't see it because it's covered up, so I'm going to try it. Likewise, if you are going to introduce a fraction in a word problem, please redact it first. At least get them 5 minutes into the problem and then go, oh, by the way, I don't know about you, but my struggling students always regretted fractions, and they never, ever skip the opportunity to tell me. To be honest with you, the advanced honors classes, the same exact way, except when I said what problems you could ask, that took a while. They really explored it. 9 times out of 10, the questions that they could come up with when I said, what questions could you ask? Because I had it redacted. 9 times out of 10, what they asked was way harder than what the problem was. So much so that I usually sit back and take a few notes like, oh, okay, we can do that one later. I got you. So it is more, you think about it, it does fit into a GT gifted type strategy of a lot of discussion and imagination, prediction. Likewise, that question of what numbers could go in here is a great one to ask as well. Yeah, I agree. High flyers go straight for the numbers and never even realize there are any words. And to be honest with you, that was my goal. When I saw this and I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, I wanted to slow them down because smell the roses along the way, because usually they're so number centric. They miss the thing. Like that very first problem that we did, they would see the numbers and may not ever pick out varies directly. So number pluckers. Yeah. Oh, we had a long conversation at number pluckers once. That was an interesting conversation. I had to be told what it was first, and then I go, oh, that makes sense. Let's see. It is 8:54. Are there any crazy, interesting questions that you guys would like to ask before we kind of step away from this? Problem solvers, which is kind of along the lines is why I really want to try to move towards 3 reads, because that's a problem solving strategy. That's kids empowered to tackle problems themselves. Yes. That's a great point, Brandon. Are high flyers just answer getters, or are they conceptually sound? There are some holes that usually can pop up there. So now I want you to go back and look at our original question here. When I asked you this question, you told me all of those issues that you see your students. Would an activity like numberless word problems address some of your concerns? And that really is the big question. So right now, I want, if you can remember what you typed in, a simple yes or no, or a maybe. put it in here real quick and let me see what you think. Does Numberless, the discussion task like Numberless word problems, help what you identified as a problem? All right, then that's the price of admission right there. To be honest with you, whenever we go to PDs, if we can come up with one thing that would help our kiddos, then by all means, take it, steal it. Remember that Brad Pitt thing. I would like to go ahead and continue the conversation. Region 11 does produce a lot of materials. Well, more now. Especially we have resources for K through 5, workshop model stuff. We have a lovely Desmos page that we just basically compiled, and we go standard by standard in Texas for 6th grade through pre-calculus, and also some augmented formula charts. You can, my email address is here. You can follow me on Twitter at Minecraft Math. And by all means, everything my work do, my boss says has to go on the website, so I put it there. I want to say thank you so much for sharing some time with me and allowing me to share Numberless word problems with you. And if you ever have any questions before you go to and pay money, like at places like Teacher Pay Teacher, feel free to hit me up and see if I got something for free. Because my job is to make your life easier one Sunday evening at a time.
All right. Thank you very much, David. You definitely shared a lot for us to think about, and it was great to have you here tonight. Just wanted to let people know what's on tap for our next session. Our next session is going to be the people from Public Math. Chris Snow, Molly Daly, and Christopher Danielson are going to be talking about Public Math Pop-Up, Mathematize Your Kitchen. It's a general audience session, and that's going to be taking place on April 6th, so a week from today. In addition, we are looking for Global Math Department webinar attendees to share how the Global Math Department has impacted their work in their classrooms. The webinar will have approximately 4 presenters sharing for 10 to 15 minutes each. We're interested in hearing from people that attend the webinar live, watch the recording, or listen to the podcast. Consider sharing with us for this special session on June 29th of this year. If you're interested, you can email us at globalmathdepartment@gmail.com, or you can fill out this link that I just put into the chat. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. If you have any ideas for potential speakers, you can email us or have them email us at globalmathdepartment@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing many of you at our next webinar. Good night, everyone.